Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Retirement Resistance. I am Jason, and today it's going to be a continuation type story of the last video where I talked about how I was forced into retirement at the age of 29. This would be more what happened right after and how I ended up losing everything. I lost my independence. I lost my finances. I lost just, you name it. I lost the will to care. And it set me down a path of just really, really bad decisions, like just one right after the other. So if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell and give me a thumbs up if you're learning anything or trying to figure out with me what retirement is like, even early retirement. I'm age 51 right now. I'll be 52 this year, and it's a process. It's really, really a process. So anyways, to pick up where I left off, I was 29. I had to move to Central California. I was living with my mother. I just qualified for SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance. I was getting an extra little supplement income for having a son and being a single father and raising him. And so I was just kind of just trying to be grounded a little bit and figure out, okay, this is where I'm at, how this is going to look. Meanwhile, I'm still operating a motor vehicle. I'm still driving. And, the first thing I needed to do is reestablish my son into the school system, which I did. And he started here, I believe he was going into the second grade. And I was taking him to school one morning and we were driving up. And I remember saying, hey, is the light green? And he said, yeah, Dad, the light's green. And for some reason at that moment, it really hit me. And, all glory to God, to be honest with you, because I don't know if I would have had the willpower to realize this stuff myself. But at that very moment, I realized, man, I just had to ask my 9-year-old son if the light was green. I dropped him off at school. I drove back to my mother's house and I walked in. I gave her my driver's license and the keys to my truck. And I said, no matter what I say or how I get emotional, please do not hand this back to me ever again. I thank God for the strength to make that decision on my own and to make it at that moment. But I honestly, out of everything that I've been through up to this point, that had to be the hardest thing I ever did. My independence, my ability to get up and go and move was gone. And I didn't realize up to that point the privilege it is to be able to drive a car. Now, if you remember and you watched the last video, and if you haven't, I encourage you to go watch it. Remember, this was the first thing that I thought of when I was diagnosed with Stargardt's disease, that I wanted to be able to drive a car. And well, here I was driving a car, and now we're fast forwarding to a moment where that all came to an end. And as much as I am very blessed to be able to have the time that I did drive a car, it made this a lot harder because now I knew what I was giving up. To where maybe if I never drove a car, that would be fine. I had to sell the truck. I had to, which in reality helped me kind of get my own place. So it gave me the funds I needed to put it first and last and all that and get into an apartment for me and my son. But, there's a lot of things that I had to give up. I had to give up, credit, some of the credit cards that I had and credit card debt. And, the idea that I just couldn't take my son and go eat out all the time or go take him to get a video game. And, I've started to realize this was an adjustment for him as well. I went from having 2 days off a week where we always had these fun play days to, I was off every day. And, we definitely got to spend, a lot of time together. And there's always a blessing in your tragedy sometimes, right? And the blessing that I take out of this moment and the opportunity that I had and everything that I was losing was the ability to be a single dad and to be able to have the opportunity to be home and kind of guide him and teach him and be there for him and create different types of memories. Before, it was all about money and the things that we could do. And now it was more about the relationship. That was the best part of it. But I'm not going to sit here and say that that makes up for the hardship of, how I paid my bills, how I was eating, and then losing my identity in the process. I mean, I put everything into my work ethic. This started at the age of 8. Once again, go watch the video previous to this. I mean, I worked since I was 8 years old, whether it was sweeping hair at the barber shop or whether it was babysitting kids or mowing lawns. Like, I always found a way to make money to get the things that I wanted or needed. And it wasn't a whole lot of money, but I mean, my work ethic was everything. Who I was, the integrity I carried as a man was in my ability to work, and that was now gone. I'm 30 years old now, and I don't even know who I am. If it wasn't for my son, and again, I'm a spiritual man, and I believe that God gave me him for a reason. Not only did he give me focus in my early 20s at 22, he was also there again giving me focus at the age of 30, because if he wasn't my sole responsibility, I don't know how I truly would have handled all this adversity I was facing and looking at the time. Like, I was dealing with this idea, this word that was floating around in my head: you're legally blind, you're legally blind. Well, what does that mean for me in the future? For the very first time since the age of 22, I found myself feeling lonely. I didn't have anybody. He would go off to school, and I would just sit home all day and watch Sports Center, which, most men might be like, "Hey, dude, that sounds pretty cool." I'm like, "Nah, dude, it's not." Not really. I mean, maybe at one point in time, like being able to sit there and have the money that I had when I was working and being able to watch ESPN, yeah, pretty cool. But at this moment, the reality kicked in pretty fast that this wasn't going to be the way to live. It started me down a path of turning to food and turning into getting obese, creating more health issues. I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. I don't know if anybody knows about Crohn's disease, so you could add that to the list of everything that was happening in my life at this point. And I really thought that this would be the ideal way now. Hey, maybe I need to meet another woman. Maybe having a girlfriend or having somebody in my life would kind of fill the gaps of not having a job or not always feeling alone. Maybe it'll give me a sense of purpose for myself. So I started down a path. Now, starting down a path of trying to meet a woman and explain to them your life situation at the age of 30 was, I mean, and I can't think of a better word than embarrassing, humbling, hurtful, being denied. The minute you tried to explain your situation and talk about the reasons why you're in this situation, those conversations ended very quickly. Nobody wanted to date or even talk to a guy who was 30 years of age, a single dad, on SSDI, and had a visual impairment, couldn't even drive a car. This is the first time I realized, you always see when couples go out, most of the time it's the man that drives the car, right? Picks the lady up, takes her out on a date, and all those things. And that was a big struggle for me. So I was dealing with job loss, financial loss, independence, being able to drive a car loss. Now I'm dealing with all this emotional loss. Like, now I'm like, am I going to be alone for the rest of my life? Is this the new path for me? Like, forced into retirement life at age 29, and everything was wiped out. I didn't know what my next move was going to be. I never gave up. And that's the thing. And that's really the message early on. Video number 2. If I had a message for anybody right now who may be going through the same thing, I don't care if you're 29 or you're 50 or now you're in your 60s and you're actually going through the retirement process and you're like, man, there were some decisions I could have made that were better. The one thing that I could tell you is, don't give up. There is hope, and there is a way to do this process. It took me, unfortunately, a very long time. We're talking a decade, and we'll get into that as the story continues. But I did figure out a path. I did figure out who I was, what I was. There is hope in the future. So I don't want this to be too doom and gloom. I just want to set the stage of what it was like and really kind of set the tone of what this channel is about. And that's just having resilience in tough times. And for me, it's the retirement part of my life. You know, we rely on so many different things, especially financially. And I got thrown in a very tough situation at a very young age. You know, I watch a lot of videos and do a lot of research and hear about how these people are going through retirement and they're figuring things out, and everything that they thought and hoped that their retirement would be, that's not the reality. And I watch them and I'm like, I could resonate with that. I understand. The difference between them and I is I didn't even have time to think about what retirement was, what retirement would look like, what I want from retirement. I was just retired, just thrown out to the pastures, if you will, and been like, hey, here it is. And in this process, you're just going to lose everything. And you're going to make a series of bad decisions moving forward, to the point where, yeah, I did find somebody to finally date me. And yes, I did think I found happiness in a woman, but that created a new foundation to start making more bad decisions and not realizing that emotionally, the whole idea that as a man, I wasn't going to be able to be the man that she needed or she thought she needed, was going to come back and not only hit the reset button, but literally put me back in my place. And we'll get into that in the next video. But I just really appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to me ramble, to listen to me talk about a time in my life where pain is at the core, but I was being taught a lesson. I was being humbled, and I didn't realize it at the time. This was going to actually give me the foundation for a new chapter in my life, and I'm very excited to tell the story. So if you liking what you hear and you're intrigued of where this story goes next, hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. Hit the thumbs up. And remember, retirement is not the end. It's just a test of who you become next. My name is Jason. This is Retirement Resilience. And I'll see you guys on the next video.